because chances are I do not know the official name of this thing. Yes, I do. The DL300. Hello and welcome, and today we have a video I've been wanting to make for a while, a little somewhat review, and it is for this newer, I call it a skateboard. It's got an official name, and that official name will be listed here because chances are I do not know the official name of this thing. Yes, I do. The DL300. I can read. Okay, so the DL300, I just call it a skateboard. So it came with a ball head, so I've got this on there just for my benefit. But this little skateboard thing, again, I keep calling it a skateboard, is just pretty creative. Now, I knew I wanted to get something like this, and I was even looking at just the manual ones, the little skateboards that are like 30, 40 bucks on Amazon, maybe it's under 50, and you just move them around, and they're literally a skateboard for your camera, right? But in my mind, I was thinking, what creative shots can I get with having a smooth, stable dolly, because right, that's the official name for it, to move around and to have my camera on. And it is really good, and it's really fun. There's a couple of things I wish it did, and I thought it did, and it doesn't do, and would be cool if could be implemented with software, which I don't think you can probably update the software on this thing. Actually, the app you can though. So if they update this in the app, would be incredible. So the things I like about it is obviously it's smooth, stable, just the cool creative shots you can get. Now I've got a file count quick release F38 system on here, so I bring my camera along and go dunk. Pretty versatile, right? I can even put my phone on here and away I go. It just gives you so much, a couple of options, and I've been putting a lot more effort into, say, B-roll. I've been putting a lot more effort into thumbnails, and obviously a thumbnail this thing is going to help with. But if you've been on our channel anytime in the last, say, month or two, I've been using this, and I've been having the setup here with products and having this go around, and also in conjunction with, and the review of this, I might do it now, I might do it later, like a little turntable. So you put a product on a turntable, and then you have your camera on this going around, and just a nice smooth B-roll you can get with it. And I've just been playing around, and then also the back and forward shots you can get. Of course, you can adjust the angle here, so it goes that, and that's a pretty tight angle right there. When you put it like that, it literally, when it goes back and forth, it's pretty tight. So that's going around a pretty small single point. There's the creative element, and as soon as I got it, I'm like, there's so many things I want to do with it. And the cool thing is I did it. I have been creating videos for my wife for her cake business, Bougie Cakes, and the videos I've been creating have been with her cupcakes that look like flowers, using this to go getting smooth shots around it. And the cool thing is, with my Sony camera, I'm shooting 24 or 30 frames a second, and I'm shooting 4K. So that's the way I've got my camera set up. And I have been doing it in, you'd think, okay, if you want to get some cool like speed ramping and some cool slow-mo stuff, you might put it in slow motion, you might put it in a higher frames per second setup, so like 60 or even 120, which my camera has the ability to, but at HD 120, I think 60 frames at, no, actually 4K you can't get 60 frames, you got to go down to 1080p as well. So you think, okay, go high frame rate to slow things down and make it nice and smooth. But with this, 30 frames or 24 frames a second, and just because of how slow and steady it is, and I normally have it on, it's between 1 and 5 for the speed. Normally have it on 1, and as it's slowly doing its little route, I normally have it on an arch. As long as nothing's like bumping the table or whatever, like I probably just did with my camera, you're gonna get a nice smooth shot. And because it takes maybe 30 seconds to do its rotation, and you're doing not that big of a movement, right, from here to here looking at a product, the slow movement of that means you can speed that up, you can speed ramp it at 30 frames a second, and it can look like slow motion because of how slow it actually is moving in real life. And then you add a speed ramp to it to speed it up. So you'd think you'd be shooting it in at 60 or 120 frames a second, but you're not, you don't have to. So You know, I don't know about phones. Well, I mean, I do know about phones. I don't know about the frames a second and whatnot, and if it's 4K or whatever on the iPhones, but you just don't need a high frame rate camera to get silky smooth B-roll for products. That whole rant was about that, okay? The one thing I thought it did, and I didn't get this information from anywhere, I just assumed it would have done this, which would be having a start and stop point. If you could set that up, so you could say, like, hold a button and say, okay, don't go past this point, and then travel for some amount of time to this point, and then go back and forward between that. You could absolutely use this for, like, say, this, a talking head, where, say, if I had a camera here for B-roll and it was, you know, slowly, quietly moving back and forward, I could get some dynamic shots of a different angle of me moving, you know, very slowly with the background, you know, also shifting with a bit of parallax there. That would have been fantastic, but obviously, because it doesn't do that, it means that either you press go and it continues to go until you hit stop, it falls off something, or it hits something and can't go any further. That's not ideal. It would be awesome to set that stop point so you can use it in a little bit more scenarios and not have to worry that it's going to jump off a table, not going to worry that's going to, you know, fall off an edge and damage whatever's on top of it, which might be an expensive camera. So just there's that. But of course, you know, if you've got an expensive camera, it means you may have more funds to get different products. And a dolly, you can get the rail systems with dollies where they can move back and forward on a rail. More money though. So for the price for this, it just means if they update the software to give it a stop point, so you get on the app and you say, okay, go for 10 seconds in this direction and stop, and then do the reverse, that would really be a game changer. So I went into this thinking it did it, it didn't. The app is pretty basic. It's fine, it's there. I've played around with it. You can set like go in this direction for 10 seconds, but then it just stops and it doesn't do anything after that. So I mean, by all means, you can just keep hitting it and say, okay, go this way for 10 seconds and then go this way for 10 seconds, or manually hit the buttons that are on the actual device to do the same thing. But then if it's like in this scenario, you're taking your attention away from whatever you're doing. If you have somebody else doing it, then they're not monitoring the audio or whatever. So it's just taking time away from doing creative shots, when really if they just add a little feature, it could do it for you. A little safety feature to make sure that you're happy, that it knows it's not gonna, you know, you give it a little bit of wiggle room, make sure it's not even close to an edge. You don't want to risk it, but that would be a fantastic thing. All right, so I've got this little setup on here, which this thing's made of plastic. I wouldn't trust it with my entire life. I really have to tighten this thing down to make sure it's not moving. But just the reason I like it, it's got this little turny thing on there for tightening this. So if this loosens up a little bit, and this is the F38 FileCam quick release, so that's on there. So I just put my camera on and off real quick. So it just helps me tighten that down real nice, or adjust the angle if I need to. This gives me a tilt back and forth, and then I can just unscrew it if I want and put, say, a little extender in there to raise the height a little bit. So it just gives me a little bit of flexibility. Now with my camera, with its new lens, the Sigma 16mm, it's a little bit more front heavy than it used to be, than when I had my kit lens on there. So there's, you know, been a couple of times I've had to support the weight a little bit because it can and it will tip. So I'm just super cautious with it, but that gives me flexibility of angles up and down and a little bit of rotation here, and I can go from front to back. I just rotate the quick release on there. So all in all, this thing is just giving me a lot of creative options, and I just like what it does. Now, here's the key thing. There's just one wheel, this black one here, that drives. The rest are all just loosey-goosey, do what they want. So it is, if you're on an uneven surface, it doesn't do great. If you're going over, like, say, a tile floor, for instance, and you got the little grout, you know, parts, it's not going to do too good there, especially if the driving wheel is in a certain spot and lifts, then the others are not driving, and away you go. So obviously that's how they've saved money and time and space now. So there's that, okay? So level surface, be cautious and careful. The other thing is it's got some weight behind it. Now that's a good thing. When I first got it and I picked it up, I'm like, okay, it's weighty, it's made out of metal, which is great, because obviously if you're putting your camera on the top, which is also expensive and weighty, you don't want this thing just being flimsy and whatnot. So I'm a fan. I think it's cool, and the cool shots I've got with it, I've just been so happy. My wife's been so happy with the shots that I've got for her with her cake stuff, and that's primarily where I've used it, as well as my products back here. I think it's worth it if you can't afford the big Dolly systems, the tracks, or like even just the smaller versions of that, but still they're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. There's some that like are modular and you add parts to it and it adds different elements to it, but the cost adds up. So I've seen David Manning's videos where he got one, and that thing, I think I looked it up and it was a couple of grand if I remember correctly. So this thing's, I don't remember, maybe it's $100, $200, somewhere within there. It does some pretty cool things. So that is my take on this Neewer DL300. And any questions, let me know. I'll put links in the description for Amazon for this thing because it's cool. If I've mentioned any product, I think my lens and whatever else I've mentioned in this, I'll put links in the description below. But hope that helps. Hope it helps you make your mind up or gives you some information about this product. But hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.